What's up, Blue Jay fans? Rob Scott of the Jay Talking Podcast, and I'm here to shit on the Blue Jays offense a little bit. This is going to be my last opportunity to shit on the Blue Jays before I leave for a 4-day trip to see the Blue Jays. My son's baseball team, the Nova Scotia Challengers, which is a team for kids with intellectual and physical disabilities, has been invited to come up and play in the Jamboree on June 11th after the Jays-Baltimore game. So it's going to be a fucking blast, and I'm really excited. Kevin Pillar, so far, is going to be on the field, as we know. He's going to come out and see the kids, so that'll be fun. I'm going to try and get a lot of video and maybe even talk to some of these guys, maybe sneak an interview in or something. But anyway, I'm not there to make podcasts or recaps or anything like that. Just enjoy a family trip and have a lot of fun with the kids and my wife, of course. So don't go to the zoo and ball games and 2 ball games and all that shit that Toronto has to offer. Anyway, so I wanted to spit something out before before I took off. And as I was running through some numbers this morning, I was really blown away by what I saw in the offense. You know, like most people, I've expected a bounce in this offense because most of the players are performing below their career averages. And if you listen to me at all, you know that I believe in the law of averages. It's the God that I take out my rosary and pray to every morning. You show me 3 years of stats, and I'll show you where 3 years of stats, show me player's age, injury history, and I can tell you a whole lot about where I think they're going to project to be. Now, sometimes obviously you're wrong, and rookies are hard to read for me for that reason because, if I don't see a statistical history, I can't see where they're going, like a Devin Travis or someone like that. It's hard to predict. But, for the most part, players are very predictable, and they have a law of averages. Slow starts mean nothing, fast starts mean nothing. It's what they do in the end and what they've done in the past. And you can add that up. So, looking at these players, you can say, hey, there's some bounce coming in this offense because they're all underperforming. Almost to a man, aside from 3-4 exceptions. They're all underperforming, below their career averages. But I started to look at these numbers today and I thought, Jesus Christ, maybe, yes, there's underperformance here. And I still expect some bounce, but I'm actually more pessimistic this morning than I ever have been about this offense. It's become like the Pete Incaviglia of hitters. It's all power and really nothing else. There's no speed game. There's no on-base game. There's no sack hits. There's no sack flies. It's all fly balls. No average. It's crazy. What you look at these numbers right now. They are 7th overall in home runs. Okay? The only other major stat that I could find is that they're 4th overall in fly balls, and that's not necessarily a good thing. Everything else, runs 18th, hits 22nd, total bases 15th, average 26th, on base percentage 19th, slugging 17th, OPS 18th, stolen bases 18th, stolen base percentage, strikeouts, they're 7th most strikeouts, stolen base percentage 70%, that's 13th, sack hits 25th, sack flies 28th, ground balls 24th, ground into double plays, tied for 1st. Extra base hits, 11th. Doubles, 16th. Triples, 23rd. So you tell me where there's value in any of those numbers. Yeah, when I just examine this and look at it, it's a sluggish, slow, fundamentally poor offense. That's what I would conclude by seeing this. I don't know how you could come out to any other conclusion. So is this, I mean, part of this clearly is the fault of the players, but we can't run more? We can't lay down more sack bunts? We can't be better fundamentally? These numbers to me seem like a fundamental flaw. There is... The only thing we are better than average, with 15th in the league, in these numbers, is stolen base percentage. Extra base hits, we're 11th. Home runs, 7th. Everything else, runs, hits, total bases, average, on base percentage, OPS, slugging, stolen bases, sack fly, sack hits, ground balls, double plays, doubles, triples, 15th or lower. How the fuck are you going to produce anything out of that? How do we expect to be any better than 18th? We've fallen back into this pattern of just slug the ball, slug the ball, slug the ball. Where's the rest of the ball game? Where's the rest of the fundamentals on this team? I don't see any from these numbers. Why the fuck can we not lay down a sack bunt? Why? Do these guys even practice this in the game anymore? Has it become an obsolete thing? Is there nobody that can run a little bit other than maybe Kevin Pillar? Kevin Pillar leads the team with 6 steals. Then you got Josh Donaldson and Carrera with 3. We can't sneak anything out of anybody else. Michael Saunders, are his legs gone? No steals, two caught stealing. This team needs a fundamental redesigning. Or John Gibbons needs to rethink the way he's playing the games. How can you not conclude that from these numbers? And then you think, okay, well, let's see where the corrections are going to come. You got Russell Martin, who clearly, you hope, has a correction coming. Because he has been fucking awful. You know, he's hit 195, 264 batting average, a 280 OPS. 280. Or excuse me, slugging. 280 slugging percentage. 544 OPS from Russ Martin and 164 at-bats. Scoring just 12 runs. 4 home runs. And he hit those in a bunch. Hit those all like within a week. So, I mean, he can't be that awful. He's got to bounce. Now, what does he bounce to this season? Well, Jesus, I mean, it's even a lot better if he can pull his average up to 230, which overall turns out to be a shitty season, but where he is right now, he's got to go up. Okay, so you say, okay, well, there's a bounce coming there. But then you look at Darwin Barney, who's hitting 321. He's got an 817 OPS, 3 home runs. He's a career 250 hitter. He's going to decline. So let's say those two match each other out, cross each other off. Justin Smoke stays where he is, which is a nice season. Josh Donaldson, despite the low average, is having a nice season. He'll stay about where he is. Kevin Pillar can show some improved production, but not a huge amount. Edwin's driving in a lot of runs, but you can see his numbers going up. He's only hitting 237 with a 762 OPS. So you expect a little bounce from him, a little bounce from Pillar. Jose Bautista is doing mostly what Jose Bautista does. Walks, scores runs, drives in some runs. But he's hitting just 227. You expect a little bit of a bounce. His slugging percentage is down to 468, so that could be age, too. I mean, you got to fucking factor these things in. I hate the fucking talking heads. The talking heads of the Blue Jays, some of them just really annoy me. That just, they call you an idiot for pointing out possibilities, facts, when you accumulate the numbers and say, oh, here's what I found with these numbers. Yeah, you're a fucking idiot. You're a garbage clown. Whatever the fuck they come up with. But when people think about Jose Bautista, for God's sake, don't pay him $30 million. I mean, I love Jose. He just started following me here a few days ago on Twitter. So, listen, I'm not trying to shit on him for no reason. I love Jose, but don't give him that money. We don't want 3 more years of Jose in decline. His defense already in decline. 36, 37, 38, 39. You want to pay for those years? At that dollar amount? You're crazy. I don't want you running my team if that's the way you think we should go. That is a poor investment. Especially when you have these other aging parts. Why are you holding on to aging parts? Look, I don't think for a second Mark Shapiro's going to hold on to him. Not for a fucking second. I'm hard to convince myself that he's going to hold on to Eddie. I think he lets both of them walk. And he does a complete repositioning of this team. A complete transition into something else. And I'm 100% on board with that. The biggest cog in this machine for this year, if we're going to go for it this year, which, again, we can't. I don't see how we can, because if we go for it this year, you've got to give up the few tiny pieces that are left on the farm. Because there's nothing on the Major League roster. There's nothing in AAA, really, aside from Dalton Pompey. I mean, you can throw Jesus Montero at the wall and hope he sticks. But he's never shown he can be an MLB hitter. They don't show any great desire to rush him up and give him a try. So they're not convinced either. He's hitting over 300 in AAA, but there's nothing in AAA, again, aside from Dalton Pompey, who I want them to bring the fuck up. Because once Michael Saunders has his correction coming, and there is a correction coming for him, where he'll drop back down to 250-ish, 240-ish. That's where Dalton Pompey should play, in his spot. He should be taking over Michael Saunders' spot. But the big cog in this offense is the guy who's sitting on the DL, Troy Tulowitzki. He is the big difference maker. He needs to be Troy Tulowitzki. But he's been so far from it. So fucking far from it. So far from it that I don't even know if he can be Troy Tulowitzki again. He's probably forgot who the fuck Troy Tulowitzki is. This is another thing. I had a discussion with a guy on Twitter, and you know what? I love the Blue Jays, but I fucking hate homers. I hate homers who are so blind that it's just optimism, optimism, optimism. Look at the numbers, okay? So this guy said, hey, it was a discussion about injuries. And they said, this was when reports came out that Troy Tulowitzki likely will come off the DL in 15 days. Or whatever his designated time to come off the DL, the 15-day DL was. And he said, hey, but you know what? Injuries are unpredictable. And all I responded by saying was, well, with some people, they're not. And he responded by saying, well, you can choose to be cynical if you want. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? All I did was, I went to Troy Tulowitzki's stat page on baseballreference.com. I added up all of the games played. I divided it by the number of years that he's played, and it averaged out to 118 games a season. That's in 9 or 10 years. That is a large sample size that you can predict upon. That's not cynical. I looked at facts and I said, here are these fucking facts. Troy Tulowitzki is going to miss 40, 50 games. That's what he does. That's his thing. That's not cynical. That's pointing out truths. Well, I tend not to look at it that way. Well, then you're a fucking idiot, aren't you? Aren't you an idiot? You're blind. Don't run our team. Please do me please do me a big favor. Don't become a GM because you're an idiot. Troy Tulowitzki might come off the DL this time, or in time, but he's going to go back on the DL at some point this year. The second we traded for him, my first thought was, Jesus Christ, why did we get a real injury guy? Then my second thought was, well, we already have a ton of offense. Why didn't we get a pitcher? Now, then he went out and got David Price and all that shit, and that was great. But we're stuck with Troy Tulowitzki now. He's got a no-trade clause. He's making $20 million a season, and he's producing numbers like Ryan Goins. Well, maybe a little more power and RBIs, but the other stuff is shit. He's not Troy Tulowitzki. He's not a $20 million player. He's playing like a $5, $6, $7 million player. That's it. And we're stuck with him for, what, through 2020? Devin Travis, he's off to a slow start. I'm not going to condemn him yet because we don't know. We just don't know. So even though I can't condemn him, let's not also, why did he also... Well, he's lucky. Ryan Goins was given the second base job, and he threw it away. So Devin Travis just, by nature, became our second baseman. There was no obstacle in his way. He was just given the job, and that's fine because you wanted to see what his bat could do. He hits all the time in the minors. He hit great last year, so why wouldn't you? I'm not shitting on that. That's fine. But he's hitting 174 to start this season. 405, 485 OPS in 48 at-bats, 12 games. Scored 7 runs, homered, 5 ribbies, 3 walks, 11 Ks, steal. But greatly diminished defense compared to Ryan Goins or Darwin Barney. So what's he going to be? We don't know. Troy Tulowitzki? We don't know. Darwin Barney? Going to come back to earth. Michael Saunders? Going to come back to earth. We're going to get a bounce from Eddie. Probably a small bounce from Pilar. Probably a small bounce from Batista. Maybe even a little more from Donaldson, although the production's there from Donaldson. The runs scored, the home runs, walks, OPS, on-base percentage, right around where last year was. Just the average is down a little bit. Russ Martin, you expect a little bit of bounce, but he's the worst of all catchers who've caught at least 275 innings in stolen base percentage, throwing out runners. So that's terribly disturbing because it indicates that maybe his hitting is more than a hitting issue. Maybe it's an aging issue. If his defense is also in decline, we may be looking at an aging issue. Which means now we're stuck with his contract of $18 million for another couple of years. 2 or 3 years, I don't know what it is. Ryan Goins, you expected more. You still expect more. But he's not doing it. Josh Tolley's never done it. Chris Colabello's not going to be with this team. He sold them under the bus by basically saying, hey, maybe what I got in my body was these guys' fault. Because I took their shit. The only stuff I put in my body was their stuff. And Mark Shapiro denied that. Said, no, our stuff is approved. It didn't come from our stuff. So he won't be back. You don't do something like that and then come back. Carrera, nice start. Expect a little decline. I mean, I don't know if I expect more from this offense. I don't know now if it's something you can expect. This offense may just be what this offense is. I can see a little bit of a bounce, but to think we're going to go from 18th in runs scored to 6th, 7th, 8th. I mean, forget first, second, or third. That's a pipe dream. Go to 5th, 6th, 7th. They're going to get hot. They're going to have to get hot I mean, a bunch of games in a row where they're scoring 7, 8, 9 runs to make that happen. And I just don't see it in this team. I don't see it. Anyway, is that enough shitting? Did I poop on this team enough? I think I did. Anyway, I'm going to have a great trip. My family's going to have a great trip. We're really looking forward to it. It's our first trip together. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Sorry if you don't like the swearing, but that's how I wagon wheel. And I don't care because I can't get fired. Thank you for joining me. I'll talk to you again when I get back.